Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to a new episode of the Seriously in Business podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm very excited to share today's episode with you. If you are someone who lacks a little bit of self-love and self-confidence, if you're not like super in love with the way that you look, then today's episode is really, really special. And we also touch on influencer marketing. So if you are interested in hiring an influencer for your business, this has a couple of little insights for you too. So today's guest is Sarah Viliamu. She is a model, a mother, an influencer, a speaker, and founder of two businesses, the Self-Love Supply and Bold Statement Events. And Sarah is really passionate about bringing light to dark and advocating for all to prioritize self-love and growth. And I think it's really important, especially even in the business field there are so many business owners that I talk to that are just petrified of showing up their face online or getting any photos taken for themselves. And I just love what Sarah talks about in the couple of the practical things that she shares with us and her own journey of being a model and what that's looked like for her and how she's worked through things like self-love over the last 8 years and how you can do that for yourself as well. So I'm really excited to share this with you. So let's jump in. All right. So thank you, Sarah, for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I am good, thank you. I was just saying to Sarah the first time that I remember meeting her, actually the only time I've met you in person, because we live in different towns, was at a conference thingy, and I reckon she was like 2 months old maximum at that point, little baby with me, and she was not happy at that point. I hadn't realized that she didn't like garlic, and she was getting a lot of garlic in my breast milk. So that was a whole other thing I worked out. But at this point, I didn't know that. And so I was trying to deal with this screaming baby, and you were off in the side room as well, pumping for your baby, who's a similar age. And I was like, such fun doing the motherhood juggle and trying to learn and being a business owner. So that was a great first interaction.
That's real life right there.
Real life. I was just like, someone else is doing the mum thing. And look, she's out of the house without her baby. Wonder if I could do that. It was just a whole thing. But to get started, I love asking my guests this question. And that is, what is like an average day in your life and business look like, knowing that most days are going to look different if you're anything like my life, but a general-ish kind of day. What would it look like from start to finish?
I would say my day-to-days probably look even more different than maybe the average person because of the jobs that I do. So, like on the weekend, I was walking the runway as a model. And then, the days before that, I was at the park with my 3-year-old. So my days really do vary. But typically I'm up very early, not by choice because my son makes sure we get up. Yes. And we're up at 6 a.m. doing breakfast. He does go to daycare a few days a week, so on those days drop him off. I always make sure I have breakfast. Absolute priority. I have to eat my breakfast, and I use that as a time to do a bit of my self-development and self-love practices, which is journaling and gratitude practice. So that is always in the mornings, and then it's work. So it's either a work from home admin day or modeling wherever, sometimes I'm driving over an hour to get to the job.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on what business I'm doing on that day, because I do have a few businesses as well. So, yeah,
I was noticing that you've got like you kind of as like a, I guess, influencer brand model, and then you've got like your self-love supply. And then you've got like a more of a event decoration-y kind of business as well. So many different hats.
I do, yes, but I absolutely love it, and I love the variety of it, and it all intertwines, which is really great because the connections that I form from doing modeling and influencing then link into the events that I run through the Self-Love Supply.
Yeah.
And it all aligns with these businesses having the same visions as what I do for my business. So, yeah.
And so what would you say is the main vision of your business and why you love to kind of, I guess, advocate for what you do?
Yeah. I would say within everything that I do and within the businesses, the main purpose behind it is to empower people to live authentically and live in ways that feel good for them, and not think that you have to fit within a box that we've been raised to believe is the only way to live. And so whatever that might look like, that's really the message that I promote, is to be your authentic self and be proud of who you are and love your body and embrace your body as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so have you always been a model, or have you kind of just grown into that in the last few years? Like, how did that even come about?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a model. So when
Yeah.
I was a little girl, I used to apply for the modeling competitions in the shopping centres,
Oh,
by
that's cute.
magazines and all of that. So I loved it. But unfortunately, I didn't get the best image of what a model could be from all of the different shows that were out there. And I struggled with body image issues like a lot of other people. So I did a lot of damage to my body in an effort to be a model because I thought I had to look a certain way. And I got a lot of rejection. I applied for a lot of agencies. I entered a lot of competitions, but I always had that spark within me to keep going. And so I would say it was really through Instagram that helped me get that platform and helped me get my image out there, that I was to start doing the influencer work, which then turned into modeling jobs for different small businesses. And it really grew from there. And yeah, now I'm a signed model, but I do a lot of freelance work that I book through myself as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Not a world that I have any clue about. It sounds honestly quite petrifying. But I mean, look, I'm totally a model with like my business own photo shoots. It's great.
Yeah,
I
we
do
all
actually.
exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. Side question that
Yeah,
just popped into my head then of like, I talk to a lot of small business owners who are honestly quite petrified of getting their own photos taken for their business. And as a designer, I'm always advocating for that because I'm like, it is so wildly helpful and practical to have great photos of yourself as a personal brand because it helps with your social media posts, helps with your website, it helps with like so many different things. But so many people are just petrified of getting their photo taken because they feel subconscious. They don't feel like they look the way that they should look right now. And then they'll wait for this future magical time when they're going to look perfect. And what are some encouragements you might give to people feeling that way?
yeah. Something I will say is that I believe self development and self growth and healing is so critical to a business owner. And this is just one of the ways in terms of feeling confident within yourself to go out and do the photo shoots or to advocate or to public speak for your business. But in terms of getting photos and getting confident, I would say doing mirror work can really help. That is a self love practice that I do a lot. And it's just getting comfortable with yourself in front of the
Mm,
and quite often it can be quite overwhelming if it's something you've never done, just standing in front of the mirror and taking the time, whether it's in your bra and undies or whatever, just to get really comfortable with yourself, because that is a whole journey within itself before you get to the photo shoot. So definitely doing mirror work and doing positive affirmations and things like that daily can really help rewire your brain to feel more confident and feel more accepting of your body.
that's really beautiful. Do you have some examples of some positive affirmations that you have found helpful?
Yeah, I probably adjust them based on the day because,
Yeah.
it depends on how you're feeling. Sometimes you don't want to be so positive, but it can be just as simple as saying, like, I am worthy and, my body is good enough, and just really basic things. Because when you have lots of dark thoughts and when you're coming from quite a dark image of yourself,
Mm.
you don't need to go the whole scale of saying, I love you, you're absolutely stunning, which you can do. I do that now.
Yeah.
And you can get there, but it's just those simple, subtle reminders of I'm worthy, my body is beautiful, just really calm and gentle. And it can really build up to having that better outlook of yourself.
And so what made you like, obviously there was this idea of like seeing the modeling world and not feeling like that you kind of could like that wasn't a healthy kind of body image and all of those different things. What kind of made you get to the place where you are now of being rejected a few times and not being a typical model,
Yeah.
and actually then now actually being okay with who you are and loving who you are and loving what you look like and getting to that stage? Like, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah. A key thing to mention is it's been about 8 years. So I think that's really important for context because
Yeah.
I wasn't always like this. I didn't always think this way, and I didn't always feel comfortable in a bikini. So it's been about 8 years of me doing the work, as they say, every single day, pretty much, and
Mm,
really sticking to it, which sometimes is the harder thing to do. It can be easier to stay comfortable and just to stay where you are with that mindset. But I knew that I didn't want to feel that way anymore, and I wanted more for myself, and I wanted a more peaceful life. But to get to the peace, it took a lot of inner work and a lot of inner healing. So a key part of where my mindset changed was one modeling competition I entered was an all-inclusive competition. So for all bodies, all people, there were no parameters around it, which is strange in the modeling world because quite often they're looking for something really specific. And just going there and being with such a diverse group of people really opened my eyes to the thought of, hang on a minute, maybe I can be a model and I don't need to be a certain size or lose a significant amount of weight. So that's where it really started for me. And then I started with the self-love practices. I really curated my social media and was very conscious of the content that I was consuming. If it didn't feel good for me, I would unfollow or I would mute, and it's something I highly recommend doing. And it doesn't mean that you have any dislike or hatred towards those people or those businesses. It just means for right then or right now, it's not helping you, so you don't need to see it. You have the choice of whether you follow or you unfollow. And that was a big help for me.
Yeah. Yes. There's some good tips in there. And I think the consistency, as you say, would kind of almost be the hardest bit. Like you might have a really great day and we're like, actually, yeah, I can do these affirmations, or I can do the mirror. I forgot the wording you used, the mirror talk, or mirror love or whatever. And doing those great things. And then you kind of have a bad day and you're like, no, I can't keep up with this. I can't keep loving myself when I just keep seeing these other images, or I just keep seeing all the parts of myself that I don't like, and not being able to continue pushing through that. I'm sure you had little hiccups in your journey. What were some things that kind of helped you to jump back on the path that you wanted to pursue around learning to love yourself?
Yeah, I would. A big thing for me was really putting myself out there. I feel like you grow the most when you're really vulnerable and when you just do it, even when it's scary. And when it's scary, that's probably when you know you should step right into it and do it. Because when I was vulnerable and put myself out on the internet, on Instagram, there were so many people who connected with me and who felt the same things as me. And I think quite often we feel like we're the only ones thinking this way or feeling that way, but there's millions of other people who do feel the same way and think the same way. So when I was vulnerable and started sharing online, that helped build my confidence because people were resonating, people were messaging me. Yeah, that was a big part of it for me.
Yeah. And so I guess for anyone listening who doesn't want to do that themselves, you can actually find people like Sarah. Like there's heaps of people I follow online that are actually just so great at sharing those vulnerable bits and creating a bit of that community. And we're like, actually, no, you don't have to be this to be this. And so maybe finding some of those people, following people like Sarah, and surrounding yourself and realizing that actually, no, this ideal that I've been shown my entire life and what I'm following, what I might currently be following isn't necessarily what is right.
Yep, definitely. That was what I did for me. Like I started following people, whether it's models or influencers or business owners or confidence coaches, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Because, the content that you consume is just so important, whether it's is another massive one for me. Having that cheerleader in your ear, that positive affirmation, whether you're saying it or listening to it, is really going to help you.
Oh, hello. I'm interrupting this episode super quickly to let you know that we have limited availability to work with the team at White Deer Studio. If you want done for you graphic or brand support, that means doing your graphics for you. Anything from bespoke social media templates to launch graphics or a full branding package, our team are ready to support you. Just head to whitedeer.com.au/design studio to find out more. That's the color white, the animal deer.com.au/design studio to find out more. We cannot wait to work with you. All right, back to the episode. Let's shift gears a little bit because I know that, you are an influencer, which is just it's quite a new thing, but it also isn't a new thing as well. But I know for a lot of my listeners who are business owners, they might have, especially for the product-based businesses, but not like I've seen service-based businesses do this as well, to use influencer marketing as one of their marketing strategies. As an influencer, can you share with us any, I think either advice on how to work well with an influencer, or even just things you kind of wish business owners knew when they kind of started either reaching out to an influencer or working with someone? Like, what's it actually like from your perspective, and how can they do that well?
Yes, yeah. There's so much that I could think of. So one thing that I would say is when you are thinking about who you're going to work with, I think it's important to ensure that they align with your brand.
Yeah.
And you can get a really quick understanding of that just by doing the research, looking through their profile, seeing who they've collaborated with before. Because if they're totally unrelated, it's just going to miss the mark with who you're wanting to get your product across to.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And the number of followers does not mean everything, for sure. I know a lot of businesses, they maybe are more steering away from using the influencers with higher follower counts because that doesn't necessarily translate to sales or to invested community members. So
Yeah.
it's really, I would say, aligning with the person and making sure they align with your brand is absolutely key. So that's
Yeah.
one. Another thing I would say is when you're going to work with an influencer, you have chosen to work with them because they have a relationship with their community. So I think it is really important, whilst of course you want them to deliver certain messages about your product, it's really important to also let them have creative control over the content that they are going to put out there, because
Yeah.
I've done a lot of different collaborations and I pretty much always find the ones where I'm able to really be myself and create it how I would normally do. That's the reason why my followers follow me. They normally do really well, but the ones where I have to be very structured and follow lots and lots of rules,
Yeah.
they do so well because my followers just aren't engaged. They can tell it's really scripted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can like from both a follower perspective, like, yeah, when I'm following someone, you can tell, like, you can usually tell what's an influencer kind of thing. And it's fine. Like, is it you're following something like, well, you need to make a living and I'm happy to get your recommendations because I trust you and I care about what you care about. And it's like, cool. So you follow someone if they're doing something that if it appears differently and than their usual content or differently to how they usually promote things, you're like, well, this feels a bit jarring, a little bit different. So I love that idea of, yeah, I guess giving enough guidelines, they know what they don't know if they're meant to promote, but also not too strict that, yeah, you're feeling limited in how and rigid. And like, even as a YouTuber now,
Yeah.
I'm getting emails from people saying, oh, Jacqui, can you do a video on this or this or that? And I'm like, that one doesn't even really align with me or my audience. Like, I could share that, but like 1% of my audience is going to relate to that rather than 50% of them. And so it's like, I love that first point as well of like knowing their values and knowing who their audience is. Like, if you're trying to target like size 6 women who are really particular about their appearance, probably don't work with Sarah. Sarah works with everyone. And so like trying to like making sure that you know who you want to work with and making sure that that influencer at least has some percentage of their following is actually interested in that.
Yeah, definitely. And just on that point as well, if you are a clothing based business, make sure the influencer you reach out to, you actually have their sizing, because it
Yeah.
happens before where they've messaged me and they don't even make my size. So
Bit hard to work with you then.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And what has been like, have you had any, without obviously naming anyone, have you had any bad experiences or things that we can note as business owners to not do other than being particularly creatively jarring?
Nothing too significant. I would just say with just being more open to what, the influencer can create. I have had some experiences where I've had to send back that many copies or redo things that many times that it
Yeah.
just so frustrating. And yeah, so it's really just going down the same message that I said before. But
Yeah.
that's probably the only thing. And the other thing is, a lot of people wouldn't know this, but when you are reshooting, you need to set up the environment, do your hair and makeup exactly the same. So that's a whole effort in itself. And then if you have
Yeah.
a week later for like a 10-second part, that can be difficult as well. But
Yeah.
all part of
Yep. I can understand that. Like, sometimes I need to even re-record a part of a video for my business. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to make my hair and everything identical as the way I made it the first time. Oh, so much effort. So yeah, I feel that. And just from a practical perspective, how do people like, what do you find are some of the best ways to even work out payments? Do you find it best when the business suggests a payment, or do you find it best when the influencer is like, actually, this is my rate, or this is how this kind of works?
Yeah, I guess it really does depend on your budget, because I'm probably unique in the fact that I love to support new businesses. I love to support community. I'm very much so about that. But I also need to pay the bills, of course. So my rates can vary. But I think if you do have a budget and if you have something in mind, it is great to just share that, because it gives the influencer an understanding of where you're at, whether it's just a yes or a no, and you can stop the conversation there and not waste any more time.
Yeah.
So if you do have an idea of what your budget would be, that's great to submit that. Or you can ask the influencer what their rates would be for what you're looking for. So just be specific. Do you want to post? Do you want reels? How long are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it for ads as well? And then they have a clear understanding of what they would charge.
Gotcha. And so it would probably cost more if someone was to use your content for an ad versus just as content on your page.
Yes. So there's usage rights, which influencers and models charge for as well. So depending on how long you might use that for, they could charge differently. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Cool. Good to know. No, I don't have any intentions so far, but you never know. I might think of something kind of cool I can use an influencer for one day. Amazing. I've got one more question for you. And that's obviously as, a mum and managing a career and multiple businesses. Could you share maybe any strategies that you have around, or even lessons that you've learned around like balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship and your career and all those different things?
Yes. I would say the biggest thing for me is leaning in on my support network when I can and not feeling guilty for it.
Yeah.
I know that's our instant thought of, we're a burden by asking for support or by asking for help. So that's a conversation I've been having lately. It's really important to lean in. And if you don't have that support network, try and see if you can build a new one by making new friendships or making new connections or networking. It's something that I'm working on. So that's definitely fun. And I do have a very supportive husband, and that's really great. And I'm thankful for that. But I do lean on him more at different times, whether I've got a modeling job or on the weekend I'm working. So, relying on him and really, honouring our equal partnership and taking advantage of that and not feeling guilty, because we're both parents and
Yeah, no, I love that advice. That's so good. I definitely feel that like, oh, but you already looked after her for an hour today. It's on me for the rest of the day. It's like, well, actually, no, we have agreed that we can do it more equally. So let's push into that rather than just feeling guilty that it's all on one person or the other. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. So I just want to quickly touch on the self-love supply. Could you just tell people what that is in case they're interested in being a part of that and when you do events?
Of course. So I founded the Self-Love Supply 2.5 years ago, and it's basically a combination of all the things that I love, which are self-development, self-love, community, networking, and supporting local business. So what we do is we host different events throughout the year that do all of those things. So we're really building that community. And in terms of building out your support network, if you want to come to any of our events, that's really a great opportunity. And that's why I built it, because it's hard to make friends, it's hard to meet new people. And so that's part of the reason why I started it. So we've got the Self-Love Supply website and all of our socials where we share the different events. We're based in Melbourne. We do a lot of our events in East Melbourne because that's where I'm from, but we are branching out to be more central and even interstate, I will say.
Ooh, congratulations.
So our events vary because I'm very passionate about being inclusive, and I recognize that not everyone loves everything. So every event we do is different. So the next one we have coming up is a paint and sip. We recently did a massive dance class with a guest speaker. We have pop-up stalls sometimes. So the scale ranges from 10 people to 110 people. And the age ranges from last event, we had an 11-year-old and a 79-year-old and everything in between. It's for all people, all abilities. So, it's all different, and it's just about community. And we always support local business. That's what it's about too.
That's really beautiful. Amazing. So I've got some links and stuff in the description if you want to jump in touch with that. And if there's any other way we want to look into your world or work with you, Sarah, how can we do that?
Yeah, Instagram's the easiest, I think. So Sarah Viliamu is my Instagram page, and you can find everything from there.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us today and sharing all your different nuggets of wisdom around self-love and influences and all of the things in between. I've really appreciated your insights.
Thank you. It was so great to talk to you.
Thank you for watching today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I loved chatting to Sarah. Don't forget to start implementing some of those different strategies around gratitude and about affirmations and about even that mirror work, and just doing those different things to kind of help to build up your confidence, to build up that love of yourself and just the way that you are. If you love that episode, make sure you have hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to this on, so that you can be around for even more episodes. And make sure you check out Sarah as well, because she has some wonderful stuff going for her. So thank you for being here. If you are also loving the podcast, I would love to have your review. Having reviews just helps more people to find the podcast and to learn more about us. So please do that. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following me on Instagram. There's a lot more to share over there. And I hope that I can see you there too. My handle is whitedeergd. So I'll see you later.